everybody's questions. So the first thing that I'm going to cover is writing up an offer on a house. So I'm a big believer that we should have a few websites on our phone. One is matrix.netrus.net. That is the MLS. I have it saved as a home screen on my phone. And the other one is Zip Forms, which I use texasrealestate.com to get into Zip Forms on my computer. But on my phone, I pay $12 a year for Zip Forms mobile. And it's $12 a year, $1 a month. And it's the best $12 I think I've ever spent in real estate. So I have this on my phone, but we're going to go through it on a laptop. So the first thing we have to know is I'm going to be driving down the road. I always pick up my phone. And one day I pick up my phone and somebody says, hey, my name is Joe Blow. I'm interested in looking at 2640 Falls Drive. And I immediately say, absolutely. When do you want to look at that? Well, I'd like to look at it tonight. Sure. Well, it's 12 o'clock. What's good for you? 6 or 7? How about 6 o'clock? Sure. I'll see you at 6 o'clock and I'll meet you at 2640 Falls Drive. I tell you what, Joe, is this your cell phone? Yeah, it is. Do you text? I do. What's your email? joe@joe.com. All right. Well, I'll see you tonight at 7 o'clock. Hey, one more thing before I get you off the phone. Are you in a month-to-month lease or you have a home you have to sell? No, I'm month-to-month. All right, cool. Well, give me your realtor's name so I can protect them in case I show you the house tonight and they like it. I want to make sure that I don't take a commission from your realtor. Oh, I don't have a realtor. We're actually just starting our home buying process. All right, cool. Well, I'll see you tonight at 6. I get off the phone. I've never logged in the MLS to even see if it's available. That takes too much time. There's an uncomfortable pause as you're logging into your phone to check to see if that home's available. So as of right now, I have a phone number, an email, and I've set the appointment. I found out that they're month-to-month, and I asked them that weird question in that weird way. Hey, give me your realtor's name so I can protect them in case you like the house. I want to make sure I don't take a commission from your realtor. Oh, I don't have one. So we should be golden. Then if I'm driving down the road, I'll freaking pull over in a parking lot, and I'm going to go to matrix.netrus on my phone. When I log in, everybody's screen most likely will look like this because I've kind of cleaned it up. If I haven't and you want me to clean up your MLS, text me your login to MLS and I'll do it. It'll take me about 2 seconds. Most everybody in our company has it like this. And basically, this is the way it looks on my phone. So I'll turn my phone sideways. I'll go right here to the street and I'm going to type in 2640 because that was the street number. I'm going to go to street name. And let's say I don't know how to spell, but I know that Falls starts with an F. All I need to do is hit F. And when I hit enter, it's going to pull the house up. So you're going to see right there, it says 26 Falls Drive. I've said until I've been blue in the face that we click on the MLS number. That MLS number is the agent full report and we print it. And all you do to print it is you go down here to print and you pick agent full report. When you pick agent full report, it will look like this and you'll print it and you'll put it next to your computer. Then you'll go back in the MLS to where the property's at by hitting the back to results. And right above the picture of the house, you'll see it says listing. You go one over to tax, click on it, and you print the tax roll, which I've done. So now I have the tax roll and the MLS printout on each side of my computer. You go back to the listing tab and you scroll down a little and you look underneath the picture of the house and you underneath the clock, if you see this little icon and you hover over it, it says schedule showing. You click on it. And when you click on it, it takes you into showing time. And I mean, this stuff's dummy proof. If you scroll down, it says schedule a showing. You click on schedule a showing. It takes you right into a calendar. Let's see, what am I going to do? I'm going to meet him tonight at 6. So you click on it. You click request a showing. And boom, I just got confirmed for that. Right now, my phone went off. It says right now I can read it. You've been confirmed for showing at 2640 Falls. So I'm done. I just made an appointment for it. I go back to the MLS printout. Above the little link that shows showing is a clock. To the right of the clock are 3 sheets of paper on top of each other. If you hover over them, you'll have all the links that the listing agent has included in this listing. So you'll see that there's 3. Now, what I might do in order to kind of be ahead of the curve is I could email these 3 forms right now to my buyer who I'm going to meet tonight, or I could print them. If I'm going to print them, I just click on it and print. If I'm going to email these forms, I go over to the 3 dots, I click email, and I basically email it to them. Okay, Joe Blow, joe@joe.com. In the subject line, I usually put form 1, and then I send the second form and I put form 2, and I send the third form and I put form 3. And that way the buyer knows that there's 3 separate distinct emails I've sent. Okay. Or I can print all these. But either way, for the first house I meet this buyer at, I'm going to look impressive. I'm either going to email these forms and follow up with a text message and say, hey, just want to let you know, I'll see you at 6 tonight. We're good to show it. And I just sent you 3 forms in your email. Look those over and just, be sure to keep them in your email in case you like the home and we end up making an offer on it. So going back to the MLS printout, I'm done now. I'm done with MLS. Okay. I'm done with MLS. So now I go show the buyer, and let's say the buyer's name is Steve Thomas. And when he pulls up behind me, I'm going to have my little home buyer packet out. I'm going to have it rolled up. It's got my resume, my references, a bio, and it's got the IBS. I also include in my home buyer packet a buyer rep agreement. And the buyer rep agreement is completely filled in except for 1 paragraph. The begin date and end date's blank. But the paragraph 1 says your name goes here. And I have it in my buyer packet so that when I meet Steve, as I establish a rapport with him, as I leave the house, I go, hey, just, so let's look at this packet real quick I gave you. This is just some propaganda on myself, but I do have these 2 forms that one of them is required. I give to you when I first meet you face to face. I show them the IBS. And then I go, hey, at some point, if you like me and I like you and you want me to be your advocate, then I'll be docu-signing you this document, which is an actual contract. And that will be the buyer rep agreement. It'll be completely filled out. It'll say your name goes here in paragraph 1. And I tell Steve, hey, look at it at your leisure. And at some point, probably after the 2nd or 3rd showing, we'll formalize the fact that I'm your advocate. I think that's powerful. And I don't know many people that would say no to that. So now I show him the house, and he looks at me after the house and goes, I think I want to write an offer on this house. I'm going to look at him. I don't care if I was licensed yesterday or in 1994. And I'm going to say, all right, why don't you give me about 40 minutes and I'll start sending you over some documents. So the next thing I'm going to do is once I get back to my house, Wi-Fi, cell service on my phone, I'm going to log into Zip Forms. When you log into Zip Forms, you know that the screen turns blue. And when the screen turns blue, you know that you're looking for 1 tab and 1 tab only. And I can tell you that Steve knows it's the new button because he'd been to so many trainings before he even got licensed. So the neat thing about our company is that when you call me, I'm telling you what screen's next before it ever pops up. And I can tell you that we're going to hit 1 button when the screen goes from blue to having tabs, and it's going to be the new button. So again, there's some things that make real estate super easy. And one of them is always, always, always hit the new button. So when you hit the new button, you're going to have 5 boxes, and we're only concerned with the first 3. Okay. And again, it's just because there we go. So the first button you can see says new listing. And we know that there's only one other name for listing, and that's a seller. The second box is a purchaser. That's a buyer. The third box is for a tenant or a landlord. So we're going to say that Steve is my buyer. That means that we're going to hit the second box. And when we hit it, it's going to tell us to name it. And I'm just going to name it Steve. I'm going to go down and I'm going to always select residential just to make this simple. I don't care what it is. Always pick residential. It just makes it simple and it makes it a easy screen to get through. So you know you've named it and you pick residential. And then it says select a template. And when you click on it, you'll have 4 choices. I have a couple more, but you'll have 4 because I set them up for you. And so you'll just go, what is Steve? He's a buyer. So I'm going to pick the buyer template, and then you simply hit the save button. The next screen you're looking at will always be a white summary square. Always. you will be looking at a white summary square. And when you see the summary square, you go 2 tabs to the right and click on Documents. And once the screen loads and you click on Documents, you're going to see all the forms that I've pre-filled. So there's going to be about 26 forms here, and they're pre-filled. So right now, I don't really care about the IBS and the buyer rep for training. I just want to go straight and get the contract over to him. Okay. I might have already got the IBS and the buyer rep. I'll get that in a second. But right now I want to get that offer over to him. Okay. So I'm going to go straight over to what it is. 1 to 4 family contract. Why is it called 1 to 4? Single family, duplex, triplex, quadplex, and a townhome. You use that contract. Again, a single family, duplex, triplex, quadplex, and a townhome. All you do is you open it. And once you open it, most of it's going to be pre-filled. The sections that aren't pre-filled, the whole reason you printed the tax roll and the IB and the print the agent full report is for filling out the rest of the contract. So I like to go to all caps. You do whatever you want. The seller's name, I have the tax roll in front of me. It's Carl F. Schaefer. Now, there's 2 sellers, so I'm not going to put an and on that line. I'm going to tab to the second line, and I'm going to put Nancy M. Schaefer. Let's say that Steve was single. I'm going to put his name. Let's say he was married. I'm not going to put an and there. I'm going to put his spouse on the second line. I go to the second paragraph. It says blank lot, blank block. I look either 2 places. To the right of the picture of the house on the agent full report, I'm looking at lot 5, block 95968, and it says it's in Rolandale subdivision. I look on the tax roll, and underneath the tax information, it also says lot 5, block 89075. I'm sorry, block 95968, Rolandale. So I like to look at the agent full report, but I also want to make sure that they're both the same. We always want to rely on the tax roll versus the agent report. So on the tax roll, you'll see it says lot 5. It says block 95968. And then you see this next blank says blank addition. And I have had some agents in the office leave that blank when I look at their offer. And I look on the agent full report and it says subdivision. For some reason, Trek has it as addition. It's a synonym to subdivision. So I'm going to put Rolandale. It says city of at the very top. It says Dallas. And right to the right of the picture of the house, it says the county is Dallas also. Then it says known as, and you simply put in the address, 2640 Falls Drive, and you tab twice and you get to zip code, and you'll see it says 75211. All right, so now you're into paragraph 2, and you can see that it has improvements and accessories. Those are things you don't have to ask for. If you don't get it excluded in paragraph 2D, it's going to stay in the house. So I always look on the agent full report down by the remarks section where it says private description or property description, directions, private driving, public driving. If there's exclusions, they'll usually have there exclusions. And what I usually do is I copy and paste it straight from the MLS and I paste it right there. There are none on this MLS sheet, so we're going to go to paragraph 3. Now, let's say that my buyer is a conventional buyer putting 10% down. This home's listed at $233,200. He wants to go in at $250,000. Well, I know already that 10% of $250,000 is $25,000. So I'm going to put $25,000 there. No commas. I tab, and I'm going to already see that third-party financing addendum's marked because I've templated that. It's the most common financing addendum. I know that $250,000, and if you take $25,000 out of that, that the loan amount is $225,000. So I put $225,000 and 3 zeros. Once I tab, it says $250,000. Paragraph 4 is if there's already a tenant in the property, like a long-term lease, or if there's leases of things like solar panels. There's not on this home. So I'm going straight to paragraph 5. Paragraph 5, I've templated $100 in 10 days, just so we don't get confused on where the option and the earnest money go. So we know we don't have to really mess with the option and the option days unless you want to change the amount and the number of days. But we shouldn't be screwing up the option and the earnest money because I have the option already pre-filled. So looking on this agent full report, underneath the listing agent's email, it says preferred title company, and they have Republic. Now, I don't fight over the title company. It's kind of like when you're in a marriage and you get in an argument over, you know, who did the dishes. I mean, is that really a battle to fight on and die? Or, you know, do you just say I'm not willing to fight on that? You know, I'm not going to fight that battle on that hill. So title companies are not something that, you know, I wouldn't kill the deal over it. It already says Republic Title. I know as an informed realtor that comes to training that there's about a month of homes on the market. And so I know that I'm not in the position representing Steve, the buyer, to fight over the title company. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this offer accepted. So I'm going to use the title company that they want. I then tab to the next screen, the next tab, and it just says, where is this title company located? On the right of the title company, it says their address. So it says 3131 Turtle Creek. And again, spelling is important. So Turtle Creek, that's good enough. Now, when I tab one more time, it takes me to a $sign. And if you tab, it should just say, that's where earnest money goes. Now, I'm probably going to have a come to Jesus meeting with Steve and go, hey, we're going in at $250. Can you afford $5,000 or $7,500 earnest money? He goes, yeah, I can do $5,000. Well, boom, $5,000. I go to the next tab and I already have $100 for 10 days. Well, if you're an experienced agent or if you're new, if you come to training or you listen to my videos, you know that $100 for 10 days, that's just not going to cut it in this market. You do need to look at the buyer and say, what amount of money can I put here that worst case, you'll lose it, and the only time you'll ever see it again is if we go to closing. And he goes, well, I can handle $1,000. I really want this home. Well, $1,000. I just told him that he could lose it. If he doesn't go to closing, that's the only way he'll get that back. And I'm now going to have a come to Jesus meeting on the 10 days. You know, that's way too many days to buy in this market. So let's make it 5. And that's going to be on me. I'm going to be hustling, getting home inspections done. And the second day, make sure I get the earnest and the option delivered by wire to the title company in 3 days. But again, what you see that's not filled in, don't worry about filling it in. And that's paragraph 5A1. That's talking about additional earnest money. Usually that's not going to be applicable. You go down to paragraph 6. I already have marked that the seller pays the title policy. You're going to have the same title company that's in 5 in 6. So it's going to say Republic Title. Now, you might, you know, obviously you've texted the agent to make sure the home's available. Depending on the condition of the home, you also might want to have a come to Jesus meeting with the buyer and ask them if they're willing to pay the title policy. The title policy is roughly 1% of the sales price. It's not quite that amount. It's a little less, but it'll always make you look good if you explain to the buyer that, hey, it's about 1%, because when he actually sees it, it's probably on a $250,000 house. It's probably more like $1,800. Okay. But if I tell him 1%, he's expecting $2,500. I'm going to always be looking good. And he goes, you know what? I want this friggin' house. So you tell me, Doug, what'll get it? And I'm like, well, I can't guarantee you'll get it, but I can guarantee that I can't even guarantee this, but it will make it look better if you can cover that cost. And so he says to me, I'll pay it. I've templated the seller's going to pay it. I need to physically uncheck mark the seller and mark buyer. Then I'm going down about 6 small paragraphs, and you're going to see something that I've templated that says shortages and survey, that it's a buyer charge. What that's talking about is one of the exceptions to clear title that the title policy doesn't cover is if the surveyor screws up doing a survey. So this is a very inexpensive, in my opinion, $80 to $110 survey coverage that the buyer might not ever use, ever. But if there's ever a screw up on the survey, this is an insurance that covers that screw up. So I always have it templated like this. I would suggest just leaving it alone. From there, we go down and we go to the top of page 3. I already have templated the first paragraph. What it's saying is this, and I think it's strong. It's basically saying that, hey, you're with the buyer, because this is a templated contract in the buyer transaction. This is saying to the other agent, hey, we'll give your seller 3 days to find their existing survey. But here's the thing that most listing agents don't read, that bold printed area. And it says that if the seller accepts this paragraph and the seller does not find their survey, the seller buys a new one. It's only if the seller finds the survey and it's deemed no longer good that the buyer is going to pay for one. So again, most agents that are listing agents have not read this paragraph. And when they see buyer marked there, they kind of go over it with the seller and go, oh, don't worry about that paragraph. The buyer's paying the survey. No, not if the seller can't find their survey. You're getting a free survey if the seller can't find it. So that's why I think it's kind of cool that, and this is my theory because I'm a thinker that's kind of outside the box. Back up here, if you mark buyer expense for the small little price of the survey insurance, and then as the listing agent's going it over with the seller and they see it's marked buyer again, they go, oh, look at that, the buyer's paying for the survey.
Hey,
That's
hold
not
on a
what
second.
It says. It only says that if the survey is found and deemed not sufficient, that the buyer pays for a new one. So it's kind of cool. I've had 2 agents this year that are in different firms. I've been the buyer's agent, have their seller have to pay for a new survey, and they call me 10 days before closing. They're like, holy crap, I accepted the contract with that. And I'm like, I did, because I templated that way, free office protection. What it means when you're residential pool, other residential uses, that means that if anything comes back on the survey and it's not deemed to be able to have a home, have a pool, or be used for residential uses, that your buyer will have 3 days to object. So let's say that instead Steve wanted to put a daycare in the home. Well, then right here, I would do this. And right there, that means that if a daycare is not allowed in the home, that you will get a 3-day right to terminate and you'll get all your earnest money back. Let's say that he wanted to put a child care in the house. Boom, just like that, child care facility. And that would be good enough. That would protect him if that's the highest, best use that he wants to buy this home for. And that would say that if he can't do it, he wants 3 days to object. I've already templated residential uses and put 3 days here. So you should be in pretty good shape. All right, going down to the middle, it's called paragraph 6E2. And I've already marked that there's an HOA because most homes have HOAs. So when you send me a contract for review, what you don't realize is that when I see that, I go in the MLS and see if there is a mandatory HOA. And if there's not, I'll text you back and go, hey, I'm looking at the listing. There's no HOA. Go to 6E2 and mark there is no HOA. And then you also have to go to paragraph 22 and uncheck mark that there's an HOA addendum, because I check marked that there is an HOA. I also said that there's an HOA addendum in paragraph 22. All right. You go down to paragraph 7, and paragraph 7, I've templated that you already have the seller's disclosure because 99% of the time you already do have it. Okay. The contract is as is. That's paragraph 7D. I already have it marked. So you're filling out very little in this contract. From paragraph 7D, you go to paragraph 7H, and that's the home warranty. I already have default at $700. That's because that's about the cost of a home warranty. Now, if I have a come to Jesus meeting with Steve and I'm like, look, this is normally paid in a balanced market by the seller, but we're trying to win this offer. Are you okay with me making this 0? It helps the net to the seller, and it might be the difference maker between a seller accepting our offer and another. And he goes, I can. I'm good with the seller not paying for that. Well, then go in here and make it 0. Okay. Paragraph 8, that's if you're the buyer, if you're the seller, if you are in an entity that's got 10% or more ownership of an entity, or if you're working with, I call it CPS, child, parent, spouse, because the only time that a kid ever calls CPS is when a child calls on a parent or spouse. So if Steve's my brother, I don't need to put it here. But if he's my child, parent, or spouse, I do. And I always also argue, if he was my brother, I'm going to go ahead and put it in here anyway. I got nothing to hide. But for Trex purposes, you don't have to unless it's a child, parent, spouse. you as a buyer or seller and you're the agent, or you have a 10% share in a trust that's buying it. You go to paragraph 9, that's the closing date. You just click on the blank and it pulls up a calendar. If he was going FHA, I probably know we can't close by the end of the month. So not only does the buyer and the seller need to help on this date, but also you need to call the buyer's lender and find out if they can close it by January 15th, December 30th, whatever. Okay. Part of your negotiating is going to paragraph 10. And back when you were at the house and the buyer said they wanted the home, it might have been a good idea to text the listing agent and just say, hey, I want to make sure it's still available. And I'd like to know, what is your seller's possession and closing preferences? And if the seller agent says, man, my seller would love to close the end of December, but lease the house back until January 31st, maybe your buyer's okay with it. Well, that means that you have to mark this second box according to a temporary lease, because I defaulted upon closing and funding. And that means the buyer gets possession when it closes and funds. All right. Paragraph 11, I'm just not a big believer in putting a whole lot in there. If I see that you did, I'm going to read it and make sure that I feel comfortable with it. You're really only supposed to put a factor of business detail that's not already on a promulgated form, which means that you never put anything in there that is on a promulgated form. And, when you put things like you should respond by tomorrow at noon, you could be changing the terms of the contract. And the way we train is that when I send this to the other agent, I'm going to be on top of them anyway. I'm going to text them and say, hey, just want to make sure you got that offer. When they reply back, yes, they have responded. So be careful when you put things that, you're acting like a lawyer, because we're not lawyers. Let's say that Steve needed some closing costs paid by the seller. I'm going to get that number from the lender. And the lender goes, yeah, Steve needs $5,212 paid by the seller. Right here in paragraph 12, $5,215. I just asked the seller to pay $5,215 of your closing costs. All right. In this market, usually that's a blank because there's just not a lot of homes on the market. What's crazy is from paragraph 12, you go all the way to paragraph 21. Paragraph 21, I've already put your email in here. What I like to do is put the buyer's email down at this section here. So I just put, Steve at, whatever.com his email is. All right. I leave the right side blank because that's for the seller agent to put. And then you can see that I've already marked the 2 addendums that are most common, third party and HOA. All right. Now, if you scroll down in this paragraph, you can see that on the left, there's forms, and on the right, this home actually was built in 1950. When I showed you those forms that the listing agent had, one of them was the lead-based paint. So I need to go ahead and mark that. All you got to do is read. And if you go to the second column and go 4 down, you'll see it says addendum for seller's disclosure of lead. You just mark it. Let's say that we were doing a lease back. You'd mark it. Let's say that we were asking for the washer, fridge, and dryer. We go to other and we type in non-realty. Let's say that we were doing appraisal waiver. That's right there. Okay, so you just kind of look down. If you don't see it, you just mark other and you type it in. All right. You go down to a page and a half from there. And this is the page where I have all of your stuff templated on the left. What we need to do is match every section on the right with the listing agent's information. And the reason why we have the agent full report, and I'm not going to fill this in, but I'm going to tell you that I'm looking at Ebby Holiday. On the far right, it says broker license number. That would be 0257740, be on the first line. I already have marked the seller only a seller agent. Listing associate's name, I'm looking at Sunday Hinchcliffe. I put their name there. To the left of their name, it says their license number 049. Underneath there, it says team name. There's not one. Underneath there, it says license associate's email. I'm looking at it, sundish@ebby.com. To the right, it says phone number. And to the right of their name, it has their cell phone. Underneath it, it says licensed supervisor. On the far right of the agent full report, it says Stacy Buttmeyer. I'm going to put her name. Underneath it, it has her license number, which goes to the right of her name. Underneath the broker name, it has their address, 1204 West Abram. And then I go city, state, zip. It's equal and linked to the left side. I'm golden. I hit save, and I just saved it. Now, once it says saved, I'm going to hit the back button. And let's just say for training purposes that the only other addendum is the third-party financing. Okay? Well, I accidentally went back too far. So instead of freaking out, I'm going to go, is the file there that I'm looking at? And it's right here. I just click on it. It takes me right back to the white summary square. I go 2 tabs over to documents, and I'll be right back at where I'm at. Okay. So the biggest thing is that there's the white summary tab. I go 2 tabs over to documents once it loads. And you'll see that I got my forms here. So now all I need to do is go to third-party financing addendum because I have the contract done. I go 2 tabs over, or maybe 1 tab. I just look around. Of course, you have a bunch of forms in here. They're all pre-filled. When you open up the third-party financing, you're looking for one friggin' blank to fill in, and it's the loan amount. So you scroll up, and you'll see I already have it templated. So right here on the first page always is the loan amounts. So I remember that the loan amount is $225. Hit tab. I'm done. I hit save. And now I want to e-sign it to Steve. So again, you're going to be in one of these documents, and whatever document you're in, you go to the left corner and you hit e-sign. And when you hit e-sign, you're going to be at a page that there's a drop down, and by default, it should say Digital Ink 2.0. If not, click on the down and click it and select it. And then you'll see this sentence, select documents, click on it. And you'll scroll down and go, what else am I sending? Well, I'm sending the contract. Notice that what's already marked is third party because I hit e-sign out of it. Whatever you hit e-sign out of automatically tags it. Okay. So if I was sending more forms, I would just click on that and I would check mark them. So I make sure that those are the 2 forms I'm sending. I hit next. When I hit next, I'm going to have a list of who I'm going to send it to. Steve, we said, was single. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to look for where it says buyer. And you can see right there, it says buyer 1. When I go to check mark him, it's not going to allow me to, but it's going to tell me why it won't, because I don't have his email. So I'm going to put his email, and then it will let me check mark him. Once it lets me check mark him, I hit close, and I'm staring at him right there. The only thing I do is go to the right column and hit next. And I wait a second, and all the forms are going to load on my computer screen. And in the right column, it's going to have Steve's name. And underneath Steve's name, it's going to say drag and drop. So this is going to be super, super simple. Here's the forms. And if I scroll down, you'll see that I've got all the forms there. They already have his initial prompt. Okay. So all I need to do is hit next and send. And I just sent you that to sign. Now I'm going to text Steve and go, hey, Steve, I just sent you the contract. Let me know when you get it. And when you open it, it's going to prompt you to initial and sign. Text me when you've done everything. He texts me and goes, I just signed it. Now I'm going to be looking for it. And as the realtor who has the account, I'm going to get 3 emails back. 2 are from AuthentiSign and 1 is an email from me to me. Okay. So it's going to be from me to me. And I'm going to click on that email and it's going to say, click here. And here the word will be linkable. When you click on it, it will say, do you want to download this as a PDF? You'll say yes. You'll save it to your computer. And that's when you'll go in and do a new email to the listing agent, attach the PDF, and also send the pre-approval letter. Then you'll be in touch with the listing agent to make sure, hey, did you get my offer? And try to get a response at that point. Okay. All right. So that is on a house.